Blog Talk Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the longest running Bigfoot podcast on Blog Talk Radio. The original Squatchdetective Radio, featuring your hosts, Steve Coles and Chris Bennett. 3 decades of Bigfoot research, 2 decades of Bigfoot radio. Here we go.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail. All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, in the whole night, this isn't a man.
And the whole time, the whole thing was shadowing us, right behind us, right on the side of us. You could kind of see the thing moving through the woods.
There are thousands of perfect people whose word would be good on any other subject who describe getting a good look at an enormous hair-covered upright animal. And that is a fact.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatchdetective Radio for today's date, March 11th, 2018. I am your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective, Steve Coles, with, well, if he was one of the 7 dwarfs, I suppose he'd be sleepy. Welcome, Chris Bennett.
How you doing, Steve, man? It's good to hear your voice. Yeah, I almost was going to sleep through the show. That was really a close one. How's things been going in New York, man?
They've been going fairly well. Another snowstorm, another 2 snowstorms over the week, whatever it was, and supposedly another one coming, but I don't think they're saying much about this one. So, anyway, what a show we have tonight. We have on from the great state of Massachusetts, from the group Squatchachusetts, we have on tonight Dave McCullough, and it's going to be a great show talking about all things Bigfoot in the Bay State. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, Squatchachusetts is sponsoring an event on March 30th and 31st at the Hadley Farms in Hadley, Massachusetts, an evening with Cliff Barrickman, and that's going to be a great event. Yours truly will be there as well, and as mentioned, with Cliff, as Dave was saying earlier, Cliff seems to hold things back, and he just goes berserk when it comes to these things, and he just unloads with all this information and stuff. So if you haven't seen one of his presentations, it'd be a great time to go out there and meet him. He's a great guy, very accessible. So looking forward to that in a couple of weeks. So, and of course, as you know, as people have seen the banner on the radio show page, and hello, Kite Squatch, good to see you, my brother. As a lot of people noticed on the banner, we are actually the Squatchdetective Radio Network, and coming in April, on Thursday nights at 8 p.m., we're going to have Extreme Paranormal Radio, and it's going to be hosted by my fiancée, Extreme Paranormal Encounter Response Team founder Stacy Horton, and the other host of the show will be the Saratoga spiritualist, Michelle Wagner, and they're going to be on Thursdays at 8 p.m. I don't know if they figured it out, if it's going to be a 1-hour show or 2-hour show, but since I am the producer of the show, I'm sure we'll be getting into production meetings here very shortly and getting a guest list. So that's going to be really a fun time. So I'm going to be on Blog Talk twice a week. Only the second time a week you're not going to hear me yapping it up unless it's something important. So,
all right, I get to hear a show without Steve talking.
That's thank you, brother. But some show notes. What we got coming up on Squatch Detective Radio. Next week's guest will be from Small Town Monsters, Seth Breedlove, and he's done shows such as The Beast of Whitehall, The Beast of Boggy Creek, The Minerva Monster, as well as the Mothman of Mount Pleasant, and I believe the Flatwoods Monster. So it's going to be a good show. On 325, we're going to have Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo founder and researcher Peter Reamer on. On April 8th, we're going to have PA Crypto Society founder Eric Altman on, and Eric's always a plethora of knowledge and stuff. And on April 22nd, we're going to have Suzanne Ferenchek from the Back 80, a documentary based out of Ohio about some of her experiences and some of the goings-on this piece of land called the Back 80. And we're also going to have on the show the director and writer Alan McGargle, and his co-producer Jess Morgan will be on as well. So that's going to be a great show filled with people. But you know, when I sit here and do these shows, Chris, sometimes I always look for a little bit of news or a little bit of interesting stuff to go on before we bring our guest on. And you know, for the last several years, there has been the Sasquatch Ontario videos that have been on YouTube. And people time and time would always ask me what I thought. Well, number one, I don't have really that much access to Canada, nor backgrounds of Canadian people. I'm a private investigator here in the United States, so I really didn't touch that one too much. But I always was very dubious, and I would tell people on a personal level that I was dubious of some of their goings-on. Well, apparently there was a split, actually almost a couple of years ago, between the two gentlemen that were doing it. A gentleman by the name of Mike Patterson, and a gentleman by the name of that was going on using the pseudonym Dwayne Scott. And his actual name is Daryl Strum, which I'm reading a Facebook post from April 10th of 2016. A couple of years ago, they had kind of split up, saying that Dwayne Scott, who uses the alias Daryl Strum, has continually attacked me, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So that being said, Mr. Strum came out and said basically that, you know, there was a lot of audios of the Sasquatch talking, and they were going on to the woo side of things. And well, basically what we had here was Daryl saying it was all a hoax. And to prove it, he put this audio out, and I'm going to play that audio now for people. It's kind of funny. So if anybody has any doubts about Sasquatch Ontario, let it be known now. So here's this video. Watch your ears, folks. It's a little obnoxious.
Can you say I am a good boy? I am a good boy. Can you say I am not real? I am not real.
And that's what we would hear a lot of, these audios coming out of Sass, Ontario. And as you can see, there it is saying, I am not real.
Yeah.
And so I guess that sums that one up fairly quick.
Well, you know, like a lot of the YouTube videos, though, Steve, you know, I don't think much people give them much thought. You know, they may have got a little discussion on the Bigfoot forums or something, but that's probably about it.
Well, you see some of their numbers; they're quite impressive, and that's that. And that is an issue, and we'll pop on Dave here in a second. But you know, just a quick observation is that, let's face it, if you have an organization that is coming up with all these different things, you're not going to put them out there on a weekly basis. You probably will put them in a collective, have them gone over, and then release them at once or in a great batch, not every week or every 2 weeks or whatever the frequency was. I never really paid much mind to what they were doing anyway. So that's just me with YouTube. So, all right. Well, let's bring on our guest, and from the great state of Massachusetts, Dave McCullough. Welcome to Squatchdetective Radio.
Thank you, Steve. How you doing? And hi, Tim.
Hey, what's going on, Dave?
So we got a new nickname there, Chip.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We that happens because we don't have the greatest hearing sometimes when it comes to the radio. Everybody comes in a little bit muffled at times.
No, just a little butterflies kicking around too. I was sorry about that.
Oh, no butterflies here. Don't worry about it.
Nah.
Somebody called Chris Chip one day, so it stuck.
Oh yeah.
So somebody nicknamed me Pookie one night, so we have the Chip and Pookie show. But anyway,
Oh, man.
So, Dave, you've been at this quite a long time, and I got to say, Dave and I were roomies in 2011 for the Pennsylvania UFO and Bigfoot convention, expo, whatever they call it, conference. Sorry. The poster's right here.
Roomies and road trip buddies. That was a nice trip. That was a good time.
That certainly was.
I think you had just finished the Loch Ness show for National Geographic, so you told me all about that. It was a nice ride, and got to hang out with a lot of nice people, meeting a lot of nice people.
Yep. I have a picture on my wall of fame over here of you, myself, Eric Altman, Billy Willard, and Dave Drageson. And
oh yes, I have that. I have that picture also.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're all standing there looking real svelte and swank and talking Bigfoot at the time. And the funny thing is this week, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, who was at that conference as well, was talking about his Russia trip. And just by coincidence this week, just the last couple of days, he released a bunch of pictures on Facebook of that trip. So I was like, wow, what a coincidence. But
yeah, I've seen those.
Yep. But for those who don't know Dave has been around a while. He belonged to a group. He belonged to Nezer with me for a while. And him and I are actually alumni on Monster Quest. We're both on Monster Quest way back when, in 2008. And
10 years.
Yep. And that was and that was quite the night where we had Hollywood make that howl, and then something actually answered him. It was pretty cool.
Yes, quite a lot of interesting things. A couple of nights there.
Yep.
Yep. Good times, good people, great area.
Yep. And then there was it was beef jerky, wasn't it?
Yes. Heimlich Bob saved my life. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, me and Bob jumped, but Bob got to him first, and poor Dave. All of a sudden, this is a Monster Quest behind the scenes. So we're all sitting around the campfire eating, and I think Dave, you were eating beef jerky, weren't you?
Yes, I was. Yeah, it was late night. We were just sitting around the fire, and if they had a blooper reel for those episodes, I think I wouldn't have wanted wood for that. That was pretty funny. Not funny at the time, of course.
No. All of a sudden, we see Dave reaching for his throat. And Bob came running over, basically saved my life. Yep. We were far away from anywhere. If I didn't get that unstuck, that was stuck in there pretty good. And then Bob moved after that, so I think that was a blessing. He was part of that with us, and I think a week or two later he moved away. But thank God he was there that night. Well, I was. He got there before me because I was a medic, so I was. One of us would have got there. You would have been. You were in good hands. You were doubly blessed.
Yeah. He was the one that noticed it. I seen him pointing at me, and I came running over, and I couldn't actually get the wind out to yell for help. I was just like kind of choking on it. So that was very thankful for Bob. And then he got the nickname Heimlich Bob.
Heimlich Bob, yep. And I remember that. Bob gets behind Dave, and all of a sudden, there it is, right out. Flying across the campfire. Messing with Sasquatch, I'll show you. But anyway.
That beef jerky can be dangerous. You know, Dave, you got to chew that stuff before you swallow it, man.
Exactly.
But anyway, for those who don't know Dave. For those who don't know Dave has been around quite a while, very knowledgeable on the subject and topic. So we are very honored to have him here tonight. And so, Dave, we always start off with a typical question. How did you get started in this crazy business?
Well, long-time interest in the subject itself and basically all the mysteries in search of and all the unexplained. But it was more reading reports on the Internet Once it really became available, like I was just glued to reading sighting reports all the time, and but never really got involved. Then when 2005 they had a BFRO expedition at Whitehall, New York. I went to that one, and then the one the following year, and then I was kind of bitten by it, and joined up with the Nezra guys. You guys did that for a handful of years. Just met a lot of great people from going to a few conferences. Met a lot of good friends out west, down south, and everybody's just been always welcoming there. You know, I've met so many people that have said, "Hey, if you're ever in my area, look me up. I'll take you out squatching." And that's on my bucket list, actually. Someday to just travel around, and I have all these friends all over the country that are into the same thing, and really good areas. See, I myself, I'm in the city. I really have to go somewhere to get away from the city, and if you want to do this. That's always been my stumbling block.
Yep. Now let's. I was the same way. I just got out to the country not too long ago, but let's talk about Massachusetts for a second. It's not all city. For those, a lot of times we get the rap with New York because everybody thinks in New York, they think in New York City, and it's a big metropolis all over the place. And it's simply not. We have a lot of dairy farms, we have alpaca farms, and a lot of apple fields. Conversely, Massachusetts, like from central to west, is very rural, isn't it, Dave?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, we have the same thing where everyone, once you're out of Great Boston and you got the southeast Mass, central Mass, and of course western Mass is more mountainous. Eastern Mass is more low level, swamps, streams. So if you want to get out to the mountains, you would go, I'd say, central Mass and out. But same thing. It is, once you're out of the city limits and you get out into, like you said, a lot of farms, rolling hills, and doesn't take long. A good hour away from Boston, and you're in some pretty rugged country. As far as, like I said, southeast Mass being, a lot of it's inaccessible, very swampy, and you got to know where you're going, have the right gear. If you can get turned around out in some of these swamps. A lot of it's unmarked, so it's very different from the trails that are marked. Nice and easy to walk, get around, but different environment from Western Mass. Totally opposite. It's more bottomland, and luminary rate goes right down to sea level. You figure it's 3,000 to 4,000 out in Western Mass.
Now,
so it goes down.
The area I am very familiar with, and maybe you can answer my question, is the October Mountain area of Western Mass. And I don't know if you've had any experiences with that at all.
Actually, I have. A couple of years ago, there was a BFRO expedition out there with a lot of these guys that we, John Wilk, the Vogel brothers, Eric and Tim, just a lot of great people that we had really good vocalization. Actually, Eric Vogel and I did. I don't know if anyone else heard it, but we were still up at the time, and this was, I want to say 2:30 in the morning, basically after everyone went back to camp, and we were out, just having fun. We didn't do a whole lot of wood knocking or anything. It was more of hanging around the campfire, playing some songs. Some of us musicians, we have a good time doing that, and less hooting and hollering. We did try some of that stuff for a while, so that we didn't really seem to get any response. So, hey, let's just go back to camp. And sometimes that's when things happen. And actually, I had another one also the same year, but it was a BFRO expedition up in northern Vermont. And the same thing happened right around the same time. We were all out most of the night. We all had, and as soon as you go back to camp is when you hear something. It just seems to me it was just very coincidental that, you're all back. You've been out doing this all night, and it's almost like they hear you and say, they're laughing at you. Or, and everyone's dragging, just putting their stuff away. So we're like, oh my God, do we go back in the cars and go back up there? And it's frustrating actually because we've been up there all night. Now, like I said, you come back to crash, and then you hear something. That's like cat and mouse. Yeah.
It always is. It always impresses me how, we would go out and then we'd come back in and they would come back in, and then we would go back out and they would go back out, and then we would come back in and they would come back in, and it's a cat and mouse type of game, and I think they truly mess with you. I really do believe that, and I think it's entertainment to them. So Dave. I don't believe you. I may be wrong, but have you had a sighting of one of the creatures yet?
I have not. I'm hoping to. I have seen a lot of other things that make me want to think I was very close to a Squatch. Those two vocalizations were very recent. And a little over a year ago, some of us heard what I'd describe as just a tree getting absolutely pushed over and slammed into the ground, a good-sized tree. Again, never seen nothing, never. It's one of those, again, you got to just chalk it up to very intriguing, very convincing to me personally, but again, nothing to show for it, nothing to... That's my word from it. That's all you get, So it is what it is, and no, but I would love to see one. And I know quite a few people that have that... they say the same thing. It's just until you do, you can believe all you want, you can read all you want, you can find footprints, you can find all kinds of evidence, but until you actually see it. Yeah. And then, actually, over the years, I'm bringing less gear out, less and less recording devices, and I don't know. I've tried everything. You know what I mean? So. I'm looking forward to
next month Dave will be trying the naked and afraid approach.
Just the bongos, just a set of bongos, and that's all I need. So
good Lord, if I tried the naked and afraid approach, we got enough people afraid of the dark. If I tried the naked and afraid approach, people would be afraid of the light.
Man. I have a friend up in New Hampshire recently that he's only been into it a short time, but he's like, anyone can come up here. He's had some curious things happening, but his thing is very adamant right off the top. He's like, there's no cameras, there's no one bring any of that stuff. I don't want any tape recorders. You get your phone and that's it. If you're lucky enough to get your phone out. But as far as like hanging cameras up or none of that, he's definitely on that side with his... He's more of a naturalist. Yeah. And like I said, all these years, all these people hanging this stuff up, rigging up this stuff, and there's really not a whole lot to show for it, but there are some very good videos, some excellent audios, and it's still not enough to convince or prove anything, but hopefully someday soon.
Well, I'm going to ask you straight out, Dave. Where do you sit percentage-wise where these creatures, if these creatures exist? Are you 100% convinced? 80%?
I am probably 90, 95, and I just want to see one. I've heard them. I've had a lot of strange things happen. It's off topic. I don't want to just start a whole new topic, but it's in the same place where Bigfoot stuff had happened, but I've seen a couple orbs. I've seen some other very strange lights. They weren't orbs, but the tops of the trees were all lit up and kind of moving around a little. And that was in New York, too. And ironically, the orbs I saw, those were in New York also. I've never seen any of that stuff in Mass, but good vocalization in Mass. That's probably the best thing that's happened to me in Mass was a pretty good, I want to say 100 yards, very, very loud and clear. Just one, and that was it.
It's really strange you say that because, when you're out in woods and you're isolated, you see all sorts of things. And, you know, doesn't necessarily mean because you see orbs that they're related to the Bigfoot, you know, but there are other phenomena. I mean, I was in Vermont on a place called Bird Mountain, and we were up, myself and Frank, and Dave, you've met Frank, and
yes.
we were kind of on a plateau, and the rest of the team was heading up the hill, and we had seen it in two separate locations, but we had seen a UFO, and it had flown in very slowly. It was big, bright. It was daylight, and this was a big, bright light in the sky in the daytime. You know, right around, I have to say, around dinner time, 5 o'clock or so. And we watched this thing, you know, for a good couple of minutes, flying around. Then it just kind of, you know, it was going up, down, left, right. And then we watched it actually fly towards the city of Rutland and disappear, you know, out of sight. So it wasn't a drone. I mean, this was several years ago, probably a good, I want to say 6 years ago now. And, you know, could we explain it? No, it didn't make a single sound. It was not a noise, no flashing lights. It was just a single bright light. And it happens. The good news is that I didn't see a Bigfoot come in or out of it, so that's a good.
There have been stories of that, though. There's a great, I'm sure you heard of the Pennsylvania silent invasion, all the Stan Gordon investigation from the same proximity and the same night. You know, it's people literally seen. They're not. See, this is the thing. They're not sure if they were Sasquatch as we know them, like the Patterson creature, but more of like glowing eyes, long, piercing red eyes that are just walking out of the beams, and you know, there's got to be something to it. There's no explanation why at this day and age there's still nothing to explain all this stuff. Really, mind blowing.
It is, and to me, a lot of times it isn't. And you make a good point, and you make a great point. There's always that in a good researcher. There's always that percentage that we don't believe it until we actually see it with our own eyes. Now, I've had my own encounters, so I can tell you they're out there. I mean, that's my own opinion because I have seen one twice, really, with my bare naked eyeballs. Not using night vision, not using any equipment, with my bare naked eyeballs. In fact, the second time I was so objective, I kind of blew it off going, I couldn't have just saw that. I just must be tired. And then the next day we find all the evidence around the camp. Yeah.
I think that makes a good investigator, Steve. You know, you got to remain skeptical, and I was too. You know, I found tracks, and you know, I'd heard stories from the family passed down, and you know, still I was thinking, you know, hey, there might be something to this. But then again, I was thinking, well, you know, it could be somebody, you know, pulling a joke on me. But until you actually see one with your own two eyes, you know, I think it's really healthy to remain skeptical.
Right. Mm-hmm. And, Chris, you have any questions for Dave? Just fire them off.
Well, I'm just sitting here and enjoying the conversation.
I know. You're at it.
I would like to ask you, though, I think I read online, Dave, did you say something somewhere about reading a book called Monsters of the North Woods at one point?
Yes, I have. One of my favorite Bigfoot books.
Well, that would put you something in common with Mr. Coles.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the book that actually got me going.
Me too. Yeah. As far as the East Coast, it really kind of jump-started motivation in me to try to pursue. I'm like, the East Coast? Once I read that book and learned that whole case, and then started talking to people around here about it, that, wow, the East Coast is actually up and down it. You know, a lot of the, you remember Billy, all the Virginia stuff that was going on, good friend of ours, Billy Willard, put together. Do you remember the expedition he did, Steve? He pulled together a lot of different groups, and it was in Virginia.
Yes, yep. I was not at that one, but I do remember him, you know, putting it all together.
It's hard to believe that's 10 years now also. That was I actually went down for quite a few days of that. It was a 2-week, a lot of different researchers from around different areas. Very, very fun. Very good area, too. It was the old Roots Plantation in Virginia with a lot of stuff going on, a lot of sightings, but not to
Absolutely.
Go
all right. So my question to you, Dave, is out of all the expeditions that you've been on, which one do you feel was the most enjoyable?
Oh, I want to say, like, results-wise, probably either the one of the really good vocalizations or the, the tree being pushed over. But that really wasn't, a couple of those actually weren't. The tree was just going there for the night and leaving, meeting the landowner and taking a walking around his property. And that's actually when that happened. That really wasn't, I wouldn't even say an expedition, but I would say, either the Vermont vocalization or the, it was actually Chesterfield, Mass. It wasn't October Mountain, but it was pretty close to October Mountain.
Now, one of the things I love to ask our researchers is to reach into their brain and talk about a couple of the cases that they've investigated. But I'm going to throw this one to you, and I don't know if you can remember it or not, but do you remember the first case you investigated?
Yes, I do.
And just tell me how you felt doing it. I love hearing those types of stories. When you get your first investigation, it's a benchmark. It really is a benchmark. It's like you're actually taking the leap from just being an observer to actually getting involved. So I'd love to hear your first investigation.
That was actually, I want to say 3 years ago with Squatchachusetts. A couple brought John and I out by the Quabbin Reservoir, and it's actually a good sighting of a white creature was paralleling them on the trail, but they actually the wife got a very good look at it. The husband didn't really see it, but he knew she saw something and grabbed him, and he knew she saw something, but he didn't really see anything, but he could tell. I think he could hear, like, branches popping and stuff like that as it took off, but she got a very good look at it, and that was the first time actually going to the site. We met up with them. They took us out there, and right there I kind of thought, okay, if this was any kind of hoax or anything, they would have laughed at us at Dunkin' Donuts and said, ha, we fooled you, you know what I mean? But they took us to where they saw it, and actually I went out to where she saw it, and John stayed with them and got a good estimation of where she saw it, so I actually stood in for where, I mean, I wasn't half the size. She said he wasn't even, I don't even think I would have been up to its shoulders. So it was interesting. It was fun, too. It was kind of like, after reading so many reports, actually having someone, and then I did a couple BFR roll in Southeast Mass, very good sightings, not far from the Hockomock Swamp, and very good visual daylight, good conditions to see something, and very credible witnesses, I thought. Same thing, people with nothing to gain, nothing to get out of this unless they got to throw out
first night.
Someone.
I got to ask this. That first night after talking to the witnesses, actually meeting witnesses and going out and looking around, did you get much sleep that night afterwards, or was it just like swirling around in your head?
It was. It did. I did a lot of thinking about it, how, like I said, if they really thought they were, I draw the line at hoaxing, which stops when I don't think anyone's going to say, sure, I'll meet you or come to my house. Some people have had me come right to the house because that's where they saw it, and they bring me around, and they don't know me from Adam. I just show up, and they're, in this day and age, especially, not too far from Boston, to let a total stranger come in. And, it's interesting. I just draw the line with, we get a lot of, there's a lot of reports on the backlog of Bigfoot reports that haven't been checked out on the BFRO. And some of them you can just read them and get a chuckle and delete. and you could just tell it's. I just watched Finding Bigfoot. I went out back, banged on the tree, and branch snapped. You know what I mean? It's
You get a lot of the I heard a wood knock, or I heard a whistle or howl, or there was one that I read that was really interesting. That his dog. This happened about 20 years ago, and I was riding my horse, and my friend was on another horse, and the horses started acting strange, and this was in an area, and we kind of figured. Now that I'm thinking about it, that was probably Bigfoot. And I'm going, what? But you do get a lot of that one, and it's just like, unusable. and on
the other hand, I found a couple of the good Class A witnesses were totally serious about it. One guy, the first guy I went out to in Southeast Mass, thanked me for coming down and believing it, or at least looking at it before he even told me what happened in that. It was, I'm glad someone took me serious. And he actually had reported it, I think, a year or two before. And like I said, there's just a backlog. It was never gotten to. And he was like, wow, I didn't think I'd ever hear anything from this. But, and it's the same thing. He goes, hop in my truck. I'll take you to where I saw it. So it was, pretty convincing, pretty credible people, nothing to gain. As you know, they're from all walks of life. Witnesses are young people, old people, people out at work, people outside hunting, people just driving down the road. It could be anybody.
That's the ones, Dave, I like to talk to. Real people. Here they are. They didn't want this thing to happen to them, but it did, and they're trying to understand, exactly what it was that happened to them.
Exactly. So when they do get to someone that's not going to laugh at them, that's half of the reason none of the people come forward. It's, oh man, I ain't telling anyone. They probably tell a couple people and get laughed at, and they never tell anyone else. Yeah. So, but now it's getting more mainstream. More people are talking about it with the shows, and hopefully something comes out of it. Someone that's just in the right place at the right time with their GoPro going, or a lot of these things are just spur of the moment, crossing the road, or it's like hitting the lottery.
Well, I always say this: the best evidence you're going to find in the strangest place, because you're not going to find it on YouTube. You're not going to be seeing somebody posting it all over Facebook. One day you're going to go to a witness, and they're going to say, well, I have this picture, I have this video, and it's going to be beyond reproach. And that's the way Frank's trail cam picture came to me, was I got to show you this. It didn't get posted anywhere. It went to the researchers first to do, to go do their due diligence. And that's, that, again, it's all about validation for the real witness, not about YouTube hits, not about anything else. But I will drop a little bit of a bomb on folks. I did have my team out today, as a matter of fact, in Western New York, investigating a case that a woman had a sighting just before the snowstorms hit a couple of weeks ago. And they reported back to me. She was very, I spoke to her via telephone, sounded legit to me, sounded realistic, sounded well-grounded, well-based. Saw it walking through a field as she was driving home. And she saw it, and then she pulled over and backed up to see if she could see it some more, and she did. She saw it walk into the woods and for a little bit, because the leaves are still dropped here in New York State, and she promptly reported it. And my guys went out there, said basically confirmed what I had basically felt over the phone, and they went out to the spots and they're looking at it, and we're working a plan going forward. So that is, that's fun stuff, and that's what it's about. But that being said, before I ask my next question of Dave, I just want to throw our listener call-in line. If somebody wants to call in and ask Dave a question, our call-in line is area code 646-668-2982. That's 646-668-2982. So So anyway, so Dave, what was the most? I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, good luck with that recent sighting. I hope something comes out of that.
Oh, it's been really amazing. The stuff I got going on this year, and again, I'm not trying to use this forum to advance myself, but I've just actually we now have a zoologist on our team, a bona fide zoologist, and we're going to keep his name quiet because I don't want him to get any gruff from his peers, because he is a professor. So, but it's nice to have him on site, and he actually was on site today with my other team member. So he actually got boots on the ground, and I had a zoologist out there looking things over, which is awesome. And that's what needs to be done. And going forward, I'm working with him to set up basically a scientific process if we do get evidence. What steps we're going to take, get a process put in place. But anyway, Dave, what has been your most interesting case? Which is the one that stands out to you the most?
I want to say the sighting, the Class A sighting, it was just 2 years ago in Hanson, Mass. It was a road crossing, but it was very close. It was 12 o'clock at noon, so it was very light. It was an overcast day, but he was close enough where this was no mistaking in his mind. That's what he said. He goes, "Oh, I always thought this was going to go. No one's ever going to ask me about this." He goes, "It's so." He says he thinks of it every day or every time he comes down that road. It was just entering Bridgewater. It was leaving Hanson. It was the Bridgewater-Hanson line. Come down the road, come around the bend, and it was literally just taking a step onto the road. And big strides looking at him. And it was kind of hunched over, and it was totally locked in on him that it didn't see there's another vehicle coming the other direction. And it stopped right in the middle, and he said its right arm that was, if he was facing it, the right arm would have been over by the left lane. And he said it literally thinks it got like brushed because all of a sudden both its arms raised, it stood straight up. And he thinks it got brushed. He goes, it almost, in my mind, it almost got run over or hit anyways, but it didn't. The car kept going. They had to have all seen it. It looked like they, looked like they almost hit it. They had to have seen it. And anyways, he had told it, when he first saw it, he like immediately stepped on the brakes, so he got a good chance to just stop and look. And after the car went by, it just kind of looked at him quick and just beelined it straight the direction it was going.
Wow.
And he said he had a chill. He knew right away what it was. He goes, no way. Until he saw it, he goes, I never believed in any of that stuff. Because he's lived there his whole life, and he had heard stuff from other people that he said, I always laughed at them. And he goes, same thing, same as a lot of people say. He goes, until you actually see it. He goes, same thing. Matthew Moniz, he's a researcher down in Southeast Mass. He's helped me with a lot of stuff. He was actually with me and talking with him, and I went out to the position where he saw it. Same thing. Ran across, and he said the same thing. He's like, wow, now I really know how big it was,
Yep. Now, let me ask, was young guy, older guy, young guy?
Older guy, just retiring, early 60s. He worked at the Patriot Ledger newspaper in, I think, Quincy, Mass, or Massachusetts newspaper.
Wow. All right.
And,
Dave, my headset's kind of muffled up here, but did I hear you say that it was a white creature?
The case up in Massachusetts where the people took us out, it was white. This one was this was more dark brown and.
Okay.
But
okay.
No, that's okay. The white one was that was just 3 years ago up in Quabbin Reservoir area.
Yeah. Well, that's particularly of interest to me because I had my family has sort of a history that and my great uncle saw a white one in Kentucky, and he didn't know what it was. And so that's kind of interesting. You know, I've not seen the white one. I'd like it, no matter what color it is. You know, I'd love to see any of them, but I've not seen a white one yet.
Yeah, makes you wonder that they're either albinos or older. That's just a theory, but they seem to be more darker. I think natural camo. But again, we have these frequent. You know, you see a white moose or a white deer, very rare, but could be. Actually, she said this one was also kind of slender than that too, kind of older. It didn't look. It wasn't like robust and stout like you would think of.
Right.
Typical description as big and muscular. She said it was more lean and shaggy, and not sickly or anything. But she just said it didn't look like you think of a big, powerful Bigfoot most times, but this one wasn't.
Yeah, and that's something else too. I think they do have different body types, don't you, Steve?
Well, you know, dimorphism or, you know, body changes and sizes in primates is very relevant. There's also albinoism. There's also graying of the hair. And, you know, it varies. And I recall a story from a horseback rider who is in Pennsylvania. I knew this man very well. At the time I last saw him, he was in his 70s. And when he shook your hand, you felt like your hand was going to break. He was a man's man, and he was a big horse wrangler. And he was on horseback with actually a off-duty Pennsylvania state trooper when they had a 5-foot-tall one kind of cross their path. And everybody was startled. The horses were startled, the riders were startled, and the creature was startled. And he described it as actually almost like a silvery bluish.
Yeah.
Like really an oddball color, almost like, you know, it's, you know, how some, you know, some people, well, let's face it. When I was born blonde. I was a blonde baby. And eventually over the years, my hair darkened up.
Yeah.
You know, when I was 5, 6 years old, my hair was a very distinct brown, but by the time I was in my 20s, it looked black, and it really was, or very, very dark brown, I should say. And then by the time I was in my 30s, I was completely hairless. But, but yeah, you know, the sizes can vary on diet, climate, environment. The hair color can be different because of genes. I mean, just like any other inherited trait.
All right. Well, you know, even gorillas, they get to. Go ahead, man.
Yes, Digger, I did have hair as a kid. Positive. In fact, I had a lot of hair. And then one day it just left.
Oh, man. Right. But the gorillas, though, as the male gorilla ages, he gets a silver stripes down his back. You know, there's a whole section along the back, so they nicknamed them silverbacks.
And you know what? In my family, you know what they call the silverback? Grandpa, me. Because I mean, just look at yourself. I mean, my hair is slowly turning white. You know, and that's a trait. That's actually an inherited trait. My father, you know, by the time he was 55, was completely white. His hair wasn't gray; it was white. And that just, you know, you got that could be a trait as well. As a Sasquatch gets older, maybe it turns white. Some of them turn white. Don't know.
Oh yeah. My beard's white now. You know, it used to be brown, and my wife said to me a few years ago, "Hey, why don't you try some of that Just for Men stuff?" So I put that on there, and it turned it black. I look like a pirate. we don't fool with that stuff anymore.
Good Lord, if I had to get Just for Men, I'd have to buy it by the 50-gallon drum. Anyway, but
you know,
seriously,
I've read a couple reports where people that have got a good look at the face, you must have heard it too, where it says it reminded them of an old man, even the way it was moving.
Yeah.
I read a report from Maine like that. It said it reminded them of an old man.
Mm.
And it was grayish.
Surprised.
Yeah.
But they
Not
could see the wrinkles and the slow moving.
Absolutely. And you know, it all has to do with food source too. I mean, you mentioned the long, lanky. It was kind of skinny, and there goes the chat room. Hey, McCullough, straighten up. Wilk is here.
I'm on my best behavior.
Anyway,
did I mention the Cliff event? Oh, never mind. You mentioned that. All right. Okay, I got my plug in. He asked me to give it a good plug.
I made sure I gave it.
I know that was excellent right off the bat too. I appreciate it.
Okay, Digger asked a question. It appears that the Sasquatch has no, I think he meant medulla. Could it be that some of the colors are influenced by sunlight through their hair like a, well, autocorrect is working against him today. Influenced by sunlight through their hair like a prism. I think he meant prism.
Dang keyboard.
Well, that is provided that all the hairs don't have medullas. I mean, we have to kind of look at certain things that just because we suspect it's a Sasquatch hair and this hair had no medulla, is it really a Sasquatch hair? If you stick to the primate end of things, one would think that their hair wouldn't be like prism-like at all. Don't know. I don't think that it's anatomically possible. Maybe for some invertebrates that have like silica may be prism-like. That would be my opinion on that. I don't think their hair changes colors. I know there was some people thought that, well, maybe their hair is, kind of gives them that predator type of appearance, and that's why they can blend in so much. But I always say this, as far as their hair is, for the most part, natural camouflage. I mean, think of a deer jumping into the woods after it crosses the road. It's 3 feet in the woods. You can't see it anymore. Got to kind of think of it that way. But your thoughts,
there's
Dave?
something about their hair too. It's got like on a few of the ones that I've seen, it's kind of had like a sheen, like a shiny sheen, and it would like almost reflect the foliage around it, where it'd give it like a green cast. I'm not saying I saw a leprechaun squatch, but the hair though it did have like sort of a dark brown and with a little greenish cast to it. So I think that really helps them, blend in.
Yeah, it may have a sheen to it. Yeah. And then of course we have the ones that don't have. Yep. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was going to ask you, Steve. Are you familiar with John Wilkes' sighting in Western Mass?
I am not.
Not to go into the whole thing, but
if he wants to call in, and we'd love to have him call in.
I'm sure he would sometime. But just talking about hair, I was going to just throw this in that, in his experience, he saw two of them, a younger one and a bigger one.
Wow.
And one of them, he said it looked like a mess, matted, but one of them looked like it was really clean and groomed. Possibly it was the smaller one. You'd have to ask him, but I remember him always saying that wow, one looked like it was really neat, and like when Chris said the sheen, it reminded me of that. He said it looked perfect, and the other one totally unkempt, matted. And a lot of people say that you could see, you got to think too, they're rolling around on the ground, laying in the brush.
Right.
It probably does get to a mess pretty easy, but it's funny how this one with it was, I don't know, either just had a nice dip in the lake, or a lot of apes do that. They groom themselves and groom each other.
Maybe the younger one was being more groomed because of, a younger one would be more groomed than the other one because it's being doted on more than, say, the adult is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good theory. Good.
That's or perhaps the young one decided to, like I say, jump in the creek or splash around some water and,
right.
And as funny as that sounds, if you ever want to see a primate study, just go to the mall and sit and watch. and I kid you not, you got clean, you got dirty, you got big, you got skinny, you got sickly, you got tall, short, young, old, and you see the how much variety there is in just Homo sapiens. And Homo sapiens are part of the class of primates. So, it stands to say that they can come in a variety of sizes and colors and flavors.
That's the thing. I was kind of puzzled by that, Steve, but after I got to thinking about it, because I have had a few sightings, and a lot of those were different colored creatures. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. But I got thinking about it, as humans, everybody's got a different colored hair. So, it's not really weird for us.
Yep. I mean, you may have some that are similar or close or the same, but you have, a whole wide range of shades and varieties of colors. Light brown, dark brown, in between brown, black, blonde, dark brown, sandy blonde, reddish blonde, it just goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave, let me you got any good ones that were recent? How about that?
I have a couple that haven't really been investigated yet, though. So they're interesting reports, but like I said, me personally, I haven't. Do you mean that I'm working on, or do you mean in general that I've heard about?
No, any ones you're working on. I mean, that's fine. I mean, you're kind of like me. You keep very reserved about what may be on the board. If you're not investigating it, why talk about it? Because you don't know the veracity of it. So, okay, it looks like we do have a caller here on the Skype line. We'll jump on real quick. So let's get on to them. All right, we have a Skype caller on. Welcome to Squatchdetective Radio. Who are we talking to?
Hi, my name is Melissa.
Hey, Melissa, how are you?
Oh, fine, thank you. I always been fascinated about Bigfoot, and it's interesting that y'all did y'all see him?
Well, I have. I've seen a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more in North America?
Yeah. Actually, the two I'm talking about was in the Adirondack Park of New York.
Oh, and are they friendly? I mean, it's kind of confusing. Some say they're not. Some say there is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I always believe, and gentlemen, please pipe in if you disagree, but I always feel, I look at the study of primates, and usually primates are not aggressive towards primates of another species, only their own species. So in most cases, they are gentle. They walk away. They're not necessarily friendly. They don't come up to you normally and try to interact with you. They kind of shun interaction. But, like any animal, I would always use a little word of caution that, you may do something to cross it, and I wouldn't want to cross a big old Sasquatch. So where are you calling from?
Texas.
Texas, okay.
Texas.
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to ask one more question.
Okay, go right ahead.
Can they talk our language? Because I heard sounds of mumbling, some squeaky sounds. Talk our language. Speak English.
Well, as far as a definite language, that's kind of unknown right now. Even some, Homo sapiens, obviously us, we use language. But chimpanzees are known to use certain sounds to communicate different things to others. So is that a form of a language too? Hard to say. So there's really not enough to know if they use their own language or not.
Interesting.
Yep. Well, thank you for calling.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for listening, Melissa. You have a great night.
Yes, thank you.
Well, that was awesome. Good to have a caller, and with a lot of questions, and we don't mind taking questions at all. I mean, that was kind of cool. Somebody that didn't know too much, they're listening for the first time, and that's what we're here for, is to educate and have a good time as well. So
young people asking questions is a good thing.
Yep. So, gentlemen, do you have any other discussions about some of the questions that were answered, like language? Dave, do you think they have a language?
My personal opinion is I think they do. At least the Sierra sounds I've always found fascinating, that those have been analyzed very well and proved it's not a hoax. And Scott Nelson did a lot of work on it, the former Navy linguist.
Yep.
And my personal opinion is they use the grunts and the yells and other stuff to get us out, but I think they use the language to communicate to each other. And it ain't just that case, the Sierra sounds. Different parts of the country, people have reported what sounds like. They'll either call it samurai chatter or gibberish, mumbling.
There's a guy in Canada. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I was going to say, I heard that. That was pretty funny. I can't believe they actually put that out to be, that had to have been a joke.
Well, that was the guy proving that it was a joke. There were a lot of recordings over the years that sounded very similar to that, like it was trying to talk. And actually it was Scott Nelson who really kind of broke it down to people and said that is not really, that's got to be a hoax. That's a man.
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, Dave, we got a request from the chat room, Dave. Somebody wants to hear you talk about the Williamstown teacher.
The Williamstown teacher? That's a Squatchachusetts case that John and I went out. The witness took us up to, again, right to where this happened. And she had a nice spot along a road with a nice view. And this is just a few minutes out of the center of town, but it went straight up a mountain and down a couple roads, and really nice overlook of the Berkshires. And that was her spot. That was like her spot. She'd drive down in her car, take her chair out of her trunk, and just pull over on the side of the road. And she did that a lot. Like, she'd watch it get dark, watch the stars. And I think this was just last year. I got a lot of them in my head. I apologize, but I'm pretty sure this was just last year that she heard some huffing coming up the hill. This was like right before it got dark. And there was a tree line. She pulled up past the tree line. So the tree line's probably, 20 yards off to her right. So she's kind of towards the side. So she could hear definitely something coming up the side. And just thinking, it's going to be a lot of moose out there, a lot of deer. And this thing just come out, and she said the same thing. She knew right off the bat, like, holy cow, this is up on two legs, just looking at her. But she said it gasped, and almost like she startled it. It was just going to cross the road, and she was right in its path, and it just beelined the other way across the field. And basically in a jog, it just took off, and it was gone in no time. But it looked startled. She said it even made like a gasp. Like,
right. Yeah.
Uh-oh. And I did this for that one too. I kind of went out to where she saw it, ran across the field, and it gives them a good idea of like John would direct me. She was standing with John, and John would say, "No, you got to go farther. No, you got to go for." So it gives a good estimation of then it really seems to shock them when they see how small I am next to them. And I'm not a little guy, but I'm not a huge guy either. But I'm a decent size, almost 6. I'm about 250 pounds. So for them to say, "Wow, you look very small to where that thing was," it just gives you an idea, like, wow. And basically, I'm running in the tracks of where.
Hey guys.
Yep.
We do have another caller, so we'll pop the caller on. Skype caller, you're on Squatchdetective Radio. Who are we talking to? Hello, Skype caller. We can't hear you.
Got a bad connection.
Yeah, bad connection there. So.
Well, that was awesome, Dave. I think that's one of the things too that when people run up on these things, they're kind of shocked and surprised, and the creatures are probably just as shocked as we are.
You know what that creature was thinking? My God, those hairless things do exist. And then they go back to their clan and like, yeah, right. What are you going to do? Show us a blurry picture?
Yeah. That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, it's just so. Dave, let me ask you, what's the state of the Bigfoot community? While we're rounding about, a lot of people have said, "Oh, I've never seen the community this bad," blah blah blah. But I've learned that the bickering has gone on since day one.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
It's just I think nowadays we get more of it. It gets more personal because of social media. I really do. But
I totally agree.
But social media, to me, is while a lot of times it's the bane of our existence. It's a curse because there's a lot of information out there that's not good. Example, Sasquatch, Ontario. Yeah. But on the same token, we do get to connect with a lot of people a lot quicker than we used to, and I think that is probably one of the plus sides. To sit there and talk to a researcher from Australia, we can do that now with relative ease, and I think that's pretty amazing. And you can see the reach just this little podcast has. I mean, you get a caller from Texas. And I remember years ago, and I don't know if you remember, Chris, remember we had that one tech sergeant from the Air Force that was stationed in the Philippines that would listen to us every week or catch us on podcast. So it's really a good way to get out there, and we enjoy doing that, and that's why we bring people like Dave McCullough on who may not know him, but there are great people out there doing the work. And so, Dave, what do you think it's going to take to bring this mystery to a close? Is it going to take a body, or is it perhaps maybe some other?
Unfortunately, if they don't come out and just disclose it to people, because I think it's been known for thousands of years, and I mean amongst people, but with science and the media, they had to have known in the last, I want to say in the last century, they absolutely have to know with all the they've been seen around military bases. They've been seen, with night vision and helicopters. I think there's actually been a couple accidents where they've come in and hauled them out. So until they, not just this mystery, but a couple other ones too, it's just time to tell the people. Like people are, in this day and age, I think we're, with that, it's kind of with me, killing one, I wouldn't want to see one killed to prove it, but if one got hit by a truck or something like that, that would be my best wish. But I couldn't see going to intentionally shoot one to kill it. I think as far as the Patterson type creature of Sasquatch, in my personal opinion, there's more than one kind of hominid. So, and that one particularly, I think, is more human-like. So I think that'd be we can really get some, outstanding samples that you can't be debunked or debated without killing one. But
right.
That's the thing about the community. There's all these different sides that pro-kill, no-kill. Is it an ape? Is it a more human-type creature? It's what is it? But I think to kill one to find out is you might find out afterwards that, we just killed a type of person or giant people.
Right. Or possibly something. I've always said this too. The big debate is a lot of times, is it hominin or is it pangid? And you know what? It may be neither. It may be a complete break off another branch of the primate, family. And a lot of people don't talk about that. And I know there's been a particular study out there that tries to claim that it was, almost angel DNA and the mother was a human, but the anthropological records don't kind of match up with the alleged DNA findings of that study. So I kind of put that whole thing aside the way it was brought out. But and I'm pretty sure, Dave, the particular study I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of politics that got intertwined into that. And I think that's the reason why it turned out the way it was. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
It was an agenda. There was an agenda. That's my opinion. I'm going to stand by it.
Yeah.
Well, that whole deal there, I think it's great to have scientific evidence presented to the public. That's great. Scientific evidence is one thing, but when you get off into personal observations and theories, that's something else. That's not really.
Yeah. Well, the thing that bothers me the most about that, it seems like the theories were coming out before the actual evidence, and so it becomes that scenario. Well, did we mold the evidence to the theory, or did we mold the theory to the evidence?
Right.
And when the theory came out before the evidence, kind of made me start scratching my head, going, maybe something is afoot here. Not just a Sasquatch either, but I mean, so you believe? Dave, you're leaning more towards the hominin side, you think?
I am. I think I do. I think by the tracks, the 5 fingers, 5 toes, kind of a lot of it is generally looks like a human, but the proportions are all different. But I think between the possible language by those tapes, the Sierra sounds, a lot of stories I've heard too on a couple of trips out west I made from the native perspective of it. It's not an animal. It's not. I think if it was just another animal that's out in the woods, by now it would have been. We would have had one, and I think it would have been, if it was animal like that, it would have been brought down, tagged, in a cage, displayed just like any other animal would. If you want to go to the zoo, see the bear, or see this one, you'll come and see the Sasquatch. But my own personal opinion, it's more of a human lineage than it is an ape, but it has a great amount of ape characteristics and behaviors, and that's what I mean. To me, it's just like it's easy to be on the fence because is it this, is it that, is it? First of all, it's bigger than the argument of if it's real or not. Then to the community, it's even beyond that. It's like, well, if it's real, is it an ape? Is it this? Is it that? It's like I said years ago, it just grabs you in, and once you get that far into it, it's I want an answer. I demand an answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I truly think that I stand by the fact that it's a primate. I don't know if it's hominin. I don't know if it's pangid. I don't know if it's something in between. What I do know is that we haven't seen it use any fire or tools, any complicated tools, anything more than what a chimpanzee may use. And the chimpanzee, DNA-wise, is the closest thing to us. So if you figure that 6%, roughly 5.6% actually, difference in DNA between us and a chimpanzee, look how much that 5.6% does.
Yeah.
How different it looks. However, that little chimpanzee is 10 times stronger than a human. Figure that one out. It's just...
It's funny that Dave mentioned the Sierra Sounds. I remember, Dave, I got a little story for you, man. We was at the Bigfoot conference, Ohio Bigfoot conference at Salt Fork Park up there, and we were getting ready to go to just a cookout. It was sort of a memorial thing, get together, and we had one guy ask us if he could ride over with us, and sure, hop in the car with us, let's go. And so it was Ron Moorhead, the guy who recorded the Sierra Sounds.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Good story.
Yeah, we gave him a ride. We had a good talk with him.
That's cool.
Great guy.
Look, and hey, Dave, your boss over at Squatchachusetts, I think he's trying a little knock on us New Yorkers.
Uh-oh. Let me see. Chimp DNA. Oh, wow. That didn't sound
wow.
Right.
Hey, if I may remind him, it wasn't a New York team that knocked his Patriots out of contention for the Super Bowl ring this year.
Hey, let's just diffuse this now. Let's not start a Boston-New York war. Let's just have a good event coming up. That's funny.
Yeah, we do have baseball season coming up.
Yes, it is. And you guys look very powerful. That's why I'm not saying nothing.
That's funny.
One thing about New York, if they do find the Bigfoot in New York and actually capture one there, the news headline will probably read something like "Bigfoot gets mugged."
Chris, can I ask where do you live?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Kentucky.
Oh, okay. Wasn't sure.
Yeah,
where the men are
like
men
around here.
Where the men are men and the sheep are nervous.
The sheep are scared.
Chris and I go back and forth every once in a while about this.
Yeah.
But well, we'll start wrapping up here because we're getting pretty close. We got 12 minutes left to show. So if anybody wants to call in now and ask Dave or myself or yes, the guy from Kentucky down there that's starting trouble. Our calling line 646-668-2982. That's 646-668-2982. And but what a fun show this has been. I mean, we've really got a lot of heavy stuff talked about today. And I think that like me, when you actually meet, and David, I want your thoughts on this too. When you actually meet the actual witnesses, the legitimate ones, it really makes it tough. Really makes it tough to sit there and dispute what some of these people say.
Yeah, I love talking to witnesses and doing the cases.
I mean, I remember, and I may have mentioned this even last week. I remember talking to this one guy, and he just made me shake my head, going, "How can this not be real?" And when you hear the legitimate witnesses, and you see how they replay it in their mind, and they get that visceral reaction while they're replaying it in their head, it just, to me, there's just no other validation to me that this phenomenon is real. I didn't need to see it. Yes, like everybody else, I had my doubts. I had my percentage of, I'm about 90%, 95%. But, it's just so hard to argue with it. And I'm a forensic interviewer. So I actually see these people and watching their body language and their neurolinguistics. And, some of these folks are just, wow, blow me away. And it's kind of funny, though, and I'm sure, Dave, that you and John both have dealt with people that have kind of hoaxed things, and you kind of catch it right off the shoot, or, and you just...
I do.
And
actually, only one. There was one that had a meeting place. We had a meeting set up with them. We got there, and they just gave us the runaround. So after a few, maybe about 2 hours, then it was something else, and I'll be there in a little while. Then it was, we knew we were getting taken, and that was one we just write off as, hey, you know what? You're going to get the good, you're going to get the bad. Like I said, you're going to weed through some of them just want attention. We've found people that are using, it's the same person, just using different names or emails, and it's like the same storytelling, and they'll request, like, they want Bobo to come down, Matt, Renee, or Chris. They want this Dave from the BFRO. They want, I thought they were coming. We had a person tell us that. I thought the people from the show were going to come, and so the show's had its good and bad, mostly good, I think. But you get the people that want to copycat, and they heard something out behind their house.
Well, they want to be on television. They want to be on TV. Those people,
Yeah, we've had a few that it was just totally laughable. Like they're in the city limits. They're literally. They could take the public T to Boston into the city, and it's just, and they keep trying. Like, hey, he's going to come down and check that out. I'm like, well, we're busy right now. I mean, come on.
Yeah, come on. So before we kick off with the final thoughts of the evening, I just want to remind everybody, if you want to meet Mr. McCullough, along with John Wilka, the head of Squatchachusetts, and Cliff Barrickman, on March 30th and 31st, an evening with Cliff Barrickman. It's going to be held at Hadley Farms in Hadley, Massachusetts. Go to Squatchachusetts.com for all the information. And again, a reminder that upcoming next week's guest will be from Small Town Monsters, Seth Breedlove, producer, director, writer of such features as The Beast of Whitehall, very close, near and dear to my heart. The Minerva Monster, which is in Ohio, for those who don't know where Minerva is, because there's also a Minerva, New York. And of course, the Flatwoods Monster, and of course, The Beast of Boggy Creek. And that one was narrated by Lyle Blackburn. Again, a reminder that coming in April will be Extreme Paranormal Radio with your hosts, Stacy Horan and the Saratoga spiritualist Michelle Wagner. And okay, my plugs are done. So last few minutes. Dave. So Dave, let me ask you a question. If there's somebody that wants to get involved in Bigfoot research, what's the right way to start it? I just threw you under the bus.
Hey, I'm used to it. No, I'm just kidding. I would say read a lot about it first before you mean going out field researching or just reading about it or learning about it? Field researching, I would say get some outdoor gear, read about hiking, make sure you have all the right stuff, be safe, just explore. I don't think there's any secret to it. I think a lot of it's luck and being at the right place at the right time.
And a little perseverance.
Yes, and be ready for a lot of nothing. Both times it's a good time out, but every now and then you have that something convincing that keeps you into it, keeps you coming back and like, wow, did you hear that? And it's a lot of fun though. I've met a lot of great people, and just having fun with it. And if something happens, great. If nothing happens, I'm still having a good time, and hopefully something cool. Hoping for a sighting.
Because a bad day squatching sure beats a good day working.
That's exactly right. Because what's the worst thing that can happen? You're going to spend a day in nature, and you're going to be relaxed.
Yeah, that's another thing that when I first got into this, like I said, being in the city, I had no idea of camping, and it was a whole new world to me. So that's what I appreciate most out of this. It's really gotten me into the outdoors and really appreciating the city. I mean, being out of the city.
Yeah,
so it's been great learning a lot of new stuff. And when I started, I was totally green. Went on a couple BFRO expeditions. Then with the Nesra guys, I learned from everyone along the way. Picked up a little bit here and there, and it was great. Just a great time. It's good for you. It's good for you to get out there. And like I said, even if nothing happens, you're still out there, still camping.
Out there. And look at the friends you made across the country too. So
exactly.
That's it.
Yep.
And speaking of friends, I didn't mention this last week, but just a month or so ago, we lost a really good friend to this show, and probably one of our most featured guests we've had on. We lost J.C. Johnson from Crypto Four Quarters very unexpectedly, and that was that really broke my heart. And I've been in the field with that gentleman for a few weeks.
That's really lucky guy. I never got to meet him in person. I've been friends with him on Facebook for a long time. Very interesting guy, very dedicated. A lot of good stuff. I like all.
He had his own beliefs about Sasquatch and other things, but he was always the perfect gentleman. And I remember when the last time he was on the show, he said, "You've got to call me this." And I remember it to this day. It was the foul-mouthed, hard-drinking, lecherous adventure man, J.C. Johnson. And I remember that's what he wanted me to introduce. Chris, your final thoughts for the night?
Oh, I'm going to thank Dave for being such a great guest, and thank everybody for listening tonight. And
thank you, Chris.
Glad to be back, and hopefully, Dave, we can get you back and do this again real soon.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you both guys for having me on. For asking me on. I really appreciate it, and very interesting.
Well, I hope you had fun anyway. I hope you had fun. Like I said, this is just like a big phone call when you talk to us. It's nothing official, nothing, let's get the big spotlight over the chair. But Dave, I want to thank you for coming on too, brother. And I'm so glad I'll be able to see you in a couple of weeks. And I'm looking forward to seeing you and John and Cliff and meeting Matt Pruitt. So it should be an awesome time down there. Can't wait. So
yes, thanks. Looking forward to it. Thank you for the plug too. Hope everyone
absolutely.
out there, anyone around New England, it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, and even you could throw a pie at me or something. Don't put me in the donkey booth.
Maybe a shoe-fly pie. You remember that?
Oh. Yeah, that stuff sticks.
On the road trip to Pennsylvania, you turned me on to shoe-fly pie.
Yes.
That's my pie story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right, my brother. Okay, folks, well, want to thank everybody for tuning in this week. On behalf of us here at Squatchdetective Radio, we want to make sure everybody has a great and safe week. God bless, and of course, keep on squatching. We'll catch you next week here, Sunday night on Blog Talk Radio, 9 p.m. Eastern on Squatchdetective Radio. See y'all.
Thank you for listening to Squatch Detective Radio. Join us each week on Blog Talk Radio, Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern, as your hosts, veteran Bigfoot researchers, Steve Culls and Chris Bennett, bring you guests from around North America, exploring the mystery of the beast known as Bigfoot.